Top stories in our news today. The National Democratic Congress, NDC, has abandoned the court process and appealed to the Home Affairs Minister against its deregistration. Agriculture Minister Michael Katambo says that the lasting solution to the high meal prices is to increase maize production. And Green Party President Peter Sinkamba says that the decision by government to resort to electricity imports is a waste of public resources. Welcome to the news. The defunct National Democratic Congress NDC has discontinued its court action in which it was challenging its deregistration and has instead appealed to the Minister of Home Affairs against the deregistration. NDC President Chimba Kambwili has told a media briefing in Lusaka that going by the law, the appeal to the minister now acts as a stay against the deregistration of the NDC. Mr. Kambwili has based his argument on Section 23(1) of the Societies Act that provides that once an appeal has been lodged with the Minister of Home Affairs, such an appeal acts as a stay against the deregistration. He has since appealed to party members to continue mobilizing as the NDC can now conduct its activities as before.
This provision is very clear and requires no further elaboration, and has been adjudicated upon by our courts of law and confirmed, and I'm reliably advised that in the case of Enoch Chifuka suing as Secretary General of Zanama versus the Attorney General, 2012 Zambia Law Reports, Volume 1, on page 157, where the court held, and I quote, in terms of Section 23(1) of the Societies Act, so long as the appeal remains pending, the concerned society or the applicant in the case continue being legally in existence and can continue to exercise its rights and conduct its activities. End of quote. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the press, the law is very clear, and I wish to inform all of you and our members that this morning we lodged in the appeal with the Minister of Home Affairs. Having done this, and in line with the law, I have outlined the National Democratic Congress NDC continues in existence and can continue to carry its activities until we hear otherwise from the Minister.
And Mr. Kambwili has challenged President Edgar Lungu to explain his dealings with businessman Vauden Finlay.
That is why you can see 13.6 million presidential initiative fund without knowing where the money comes from. I have said it. Can we be told where the presidential empowerment funds are coming from? Now, our tulenda nabo baya balumbula mu drugs na ku America. Then there's even an allegation that there's some money that came from Israel on the presidential jet. I have no facts, but there's an allegation that some money came on trunks from Israel on a presidential jet. I leave it with you, my dear president, my dear brother, and don't think I hate you. I have nothing against you, but I'm trying to protect your integrity, protect Zambia's integrity, and protect the ordinary people of Zambia. Because if it is proved that indeed there are some dealings in drugs going on, we are in trouble as a nation. Yeah. And the people who are going to suffer is not Findre, is not President Edgar Lungu. It is actually the ordinary poor people. To ask who I am.
Meanwhile, the NDC leader has refuted media reports suggesting that he recently met with First Republican President Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, where he was asked to apologize to President Edgar Lungu.
First and foremost, it is not true that I ever met Dr. Kaunda. I went to Dr. Kaunda to make an appointment to see him, which appointment has been given to me at a later stage that I'm going to meet Dr. Kaunda. So how did Dr. Kaunda ask me to apologize to President Edgar Lungu, who I didn't meet? Nonsense. And to apologize for what? To apologize for what? I have never insulted anybody. I've listened to that video. I don't know whether it is me who was talking or somebody. I don't even know who took the video and where. But I think the person who was speaking there said, Ishimbwa Shabantu. Now, in Bemba, when you say, it simply means that individual is not behaving as expected. Ask Chitimukuru, ask the Bemba chiefs, they will tell you that when you say, it does not mean that that person is a dog. It's an expression that only tells you that he's not behaving as normal.
Agricultural Minister Michael Katambo says that the lasting solution to the high mealie meal prices is to increase maize production. In a statement on the prevailing maize supply and mealie meal prices in the country, Mr. Katambo says that to this effect, the ministry is working closely with maize industry stakeholders to ensure the country records a bumper harvest starting 2020 and beyond as directed by President Edgar Lungu. He states that as the country enters the farming season, it is therefore important to do things correctly. Mr. Katambo says farmers should ensure that they use good agricultural practices, adding that starting next week, his ministry will begin disseminating appropriate extension messages to farmers through extension officers, community radio stations, community leaders, and all available media. He says given the forecast of normal to above normal rainfall and a good harvest, the nation should be assured that the prevailing maize supply situation and mealie meal prices are a temporal situation. Mr. Katambo notes that factoring in the early distribution of inputs under the Farmer Import Support Program, FISEP, which his ministry is doing, Zambia will have a good harvest and mealie meal prices will stabilize.
FRA needs to offload huge quantities of maize to have an impact on mealie meal prices. This is not sustainable and will deplete the much-needed strategic reserves. We are aware that there are some market players and some sections of society who have caught into the habit of requesting for supplies from FRA strategic reserves. This, of course, is under the pretext that the stocks will reduce mealie meal prices for our consumers. However, despite accessing strategic reserves cheaply, it is not translated into low mealie meal prices. Further, FRA has very limited stocks, which need to be offloaded prudently in anticipation of any supply challenges that may arise after February 2020. It is important the country has adequate food reserves in the event the situation worsens. I wish to indicate that the lasting solution to high mealie meal prices is to increase maize production. To this effect, the ministry is working closely with the maize industry stakeholders to ensure we begin to have bumper harvest starting from 2020 and beyond, as directed by His Excellency the President, Dr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu.
The opposition Green Party President Peter Sinkamba says the government's decision to start importing 300 megawatts of electricity from South Africa at a cost of $13.5 million to mitigate the electricity power deficit is a waste of public resources. Mr. Sinkamba says government missed an opportunity when it failed to accept the offer by Mozambique to export power 500 megawatts to Zambia and Zimbabwe in exchange for further reduced power generation at Kariba Dam. Mr. Sinkamba says the move was meant to cut down on water released at Kariba Dam, whose discharge is worsening overflow at Cahora Bassa Dam in Mozambique. He has told QTV News in a telephone interview that if Zambia had accepted the offer, it could have served more water from Lake Kariba. In May this year, Mozambique's Hydroelectrica de Cahora Bassa offered Zimbabwe and Zambia power imports in exchange for further reduced power generation by the two countries at their Kariba Dam hydro power plants. The government says it would not support the imposition of economic sanctions as a measure to compel the South African government to decisively deal with the issue of xenophobia. Information and Broadcasting Services Permanent Secretary Chanda Kasolo says government is fully aware of the damage that would be caused to both the Zambian and South African economies if sanctions were to be imposed on Pretoria. Mr. Kasolo says that this is considering that there are a number of South African businesses that operate in Zambia and the amount of imports that come from that country into Zambia. In an interview with QTV News, Mr. Kasolo states that besides these close business relations which exist between the two countries, Zambia and South Africa have a long-standing friendship. Mr. Kasolo says that the imposition of economic sanctions on South Africa over the escalated xenophobic attacks in that country would therefore be the last thing that the Zambian government would think of.
Yes, sanctions can be used, but as far as we're concerned, this government is still communicating very well at the very highest level with South Africa, and we think that is helping, although it's taking time. Sanctions are very easy to impose, but very difficult to reverse, and the damages that arise to both economies will be very, very, very high. You know, South African businesses, some of them do most business in Zambia. We get most of our imports from coming from China. South Africa is a key supplier of fruits, vegetables, wines, etc., and other hardware goods. We have very close relationships in terms of businesses. There are a lot of businesses with the branches here, or in South Africa, or from here with branches in South Africa. We have a lot of Zambians that are working in South Africa, a lot of professionals, doctors, high-class doctors, teachers, lecturers, academicians of other types, and business people that are settled in South Africa and are doing very well there, legally, very legally doing so. And then we have South Africans also doing business here legally. And if we impose sanctions, it will ruin both sides of the economy. I think that sanctions must be the last thing that we think of at all. Our two sister nations must continue to coexist. We will work hard as government to make sure that these things are resolved. And we are working hard. I'm very much aware that right at the very top of our government, there is a lot of movement, there's a lot of talking, there's a lot of discussions and sharing of opinions on how this situation can be controlled.
Energy Minister Matthew Nkoa says plans to start tapping water from the Congo River to fill up the Kariba Dam are still active. Mr. Nkoa says the proposal is now being looked at by the Ministry of Water Development, working hand in hand with the Ministry of Energy. He, however, states that a feasibility study is yet to be conducted on whether a tributary of the Congo River can be channeled via Mwinilunga into the Zambezi River. Mr. Nkoa states that he is happy that his whole idea has attracted public debate and that lessons are now being learned of how it can be made possible. He says the University of Zambia UNZA and the Engineering Institute of Zambia will both be engaged on the idea to start tapping from the Congo River to fill up the Kariba Dam.
The Congo River, coming into Mwinilunga, it's somewhere like 45 kilometers, which is like a distance from Chingora to Kitwe or from Lusaka to Kafue. This exercise has actually been given to the Minister of Water Development, Honorable Dr. Wanchinga, and he's the one who is now handling that water issue. But we are working hand in hand with them to make sure that they have to speed. There is a feasibility study that they are going to conduct to make sure that it's something that it can work. Apart from that, I'm happy to say that this whole thing attracted a lot of debate. And from the debate that it attracted, I think you have learned a lot as well from the public. So those of you that have got ideas, don't be shy. Come to us, come and talk to us. If you think you want to criticize us, and from the criticism we'll learn something. So we are ready to listen from the public, and we are also going to engage the University of Zambia, Engineering Institution of Zambia, to make sure that we also look at getting water from the Bangauru into maybe Kafue, into Zambezi and so on. So there is a lot that the Ministry of Water is looking into, and I'm sure something will come to fruition.
Still in our news, the Secondary Schools Teachers Union of Zambia, SESTU's Secretary General Sitibekiso Wamuyiwa has urged the government to increase to 20% the budgetary allocation to the education sector in the 2020 national budget. Ms. Wamuyiwa has noted with concern that the education sector has suffered greatly over the years due to inadequate funding. He has told QTV News that it is necessary that government increases the budgetary allocation to the education sector, citing the increased enrollment in schools as a result of newly built schools and the reduction in school fees, among others. Ms. Wamuyiwa says that these and other developments are enough for government to consider revising the budgetary allocation to the education sector from the current 15.3% to 20%.
Look at the other program that is meant not only to attract but to retain our learners into our schools. School feeding programs can work very well in increasing probably pupil retention, even in increasing performance. If people sometimes realize that if you are at home, they may not have lunch. At home, they may not have breakfast, but there is some food that is being provided for at school. They will definitely feel attracted. They will feel compelled to come to school and learn, and because they have something to eat. Sometimes they lose concentration, or if they are learning on an empty stomach. If they are able to be fed, they gain their energy, they become active. An active mind easily captures what the teacher offers. They learn easily and they learn more actively. So it is a good program. All these activities, in my view, they need a lot of resources, financial resources. I know that even as schools, we can have certain initiatives, certain programs to complement and supplement the funding, the inadequate funding that might come along from the Ministry of Finance.
Justice Minister Given Lubinda has encouraged people in the country to write wills in order to safeguard their children's inheritance in the event of death. Mr. Lubinda has expressed concern that some families have denied children their inheritance after the death of their parents because of failure to write wills. He has told QTV News that the ministry is working with other government institutions in sensitizing people on the importance of writing wills. Mr. Lubinda has also called on the non-governmental gender organization coordinating council, NGOCC, to enhance this campaign and ensure that every Zambian understands that it is their duty to write a will.
And this is the reason why I'm calling upon civil society organizations. They're the ones that tend to reach the people more effectively than government. When the Minister of Justice announces that a right exists in the Constitution, people tend to think they are politicking. But if it's heard from civil society organizations, people are more likely to follow up that particular matter. So yes, we are including public awareness in this program. And I'd like to, through you, enjoin all other citizens who are aware to go out and create awareness amongst our people. Not too long ago, I was talking about the writing of wills. Every child has a right, an inheritance right, to their deceased parents' property, to their deceased parents' estate. But how many young children in Zambia are on the streets because their parents denied them that right? And they denied them that right because they did not write wills. The Ministry of Justice is working on that. We're campaigning in government institutions.
Petrus for Economic Progress, PEP President Sean Tembo has expressed a willingness to rejoin the opposition alliance provided an electoral pact is agreed. Mr. Tembo has since advised the opposition alliance to realize the urgent need to come up with an electoral pact. He says that the opposition alliance should be worried that it risks disintegrating in the absence of an electoral pact. Mr. Tembo has told QTV News that he believes that having an electoral pact will help the opposition alliance remain united and enable it to mobilize resources towards achieving one common goal.
The electoral pact is, like we said earlier, it's the backbone of any alliance. Once an electoral pact has been agreed upon and it's clear to everyone to say this is the structure of the alliance, then all the alliance resources would be channeled towards campaigning for the people that have been selected to stand for the alliance. As it is at the moment, and as it has been in the past, each political party has been campaigning for their respective presidential leader, political party leader, and that creates inherent conflict, silent conflict, so to say. Even on issues of consistency, you would find that a given matter, let's say the KCM liquidation issue, and there are there's a certain number of parties which make up the alliance. You find each of the parties are issuing a different statement on the same national matter. And from the point of view of the public, they'll be thinking that the alliance is obviously a disorganized organization because the members of the alliance are issuing contradictory statements.
Southern Africa Development Community SADC Council of Non-Governmental Organizations SADC NGO Executive Director Glenn Fared says it is unfortunate that governments in the region view civil society organizations as a political threat. Mr. Fared has told QTV News that the mistrust that exists between government and NGOs should be addressed as soon as possible in order to allow civil society organizations to play their role in holding government to account. He has since advised the governments in the SADC region to strengthen their partnership with civil society organizations for the benefits of the citizens. Mr. Fared says non-governmental organizations should play their role in educating members of the public on their rights.
The concern that we have is that governments often view non-governmental organizations as a political threat, and therefore various means are undertaken to limit the role and impact of civil society, particularly NGOs. This is an unfortunate development in our region, and we believe that governments can engage with responsible civic leaders to strengthen how we interact on behalf of all citizens. Citizens have the right to form associations. Citizens have the right to advocate for their demands. NGOs are one of those expressions, and we believe that most NGOs work closely with communities, bringing vulnerable communities to the attention of decision makers and our office bearers within government. So this process must be strengthened. But we believe that the fear that has begun to exist between NGOs and governments is an unfortunate development, and we call on all stakeholders to behave responsibly, impartially, in line with the rule of law, but also in the ethos of justice for all our people.
The opposition UPND Rufunsa Member of Parliament, Shia Muliata, has bemoaned the poor road network in the constituency. Mrs. Muliata has told QTV News that government should accelerate the construction of the roads in the district. She has noted that the poor state of roads has resulted in some public transport operators shunning the area. Mrs. Muliata says it is therefore important that government attends to the road infrastructure in Rufunsa district.
As I speak to you, there is a grader at the council there in Rufunsa. We hope the works will extend and go to all these wards. There are very, very affected places like Shikabeta. Shikabeta, you know, is upland, and there's a lot of hills and a lot of stones. That road needs to be graded. That road needs to be graded because the people now even fail. For instance, when you have produce to go and sell, it becomes difficult. Even the people who suffer transport because the buses fear for their repairs to go there and come back. They fear no, they cannot go. So this has affected the people of these inlands.
And finally, in our news, the University of Zambia Vice-Chancellor Luke Mumba has noted that providing the right information on the economy is critical in helping investors make decisions that will accelerate economic growth as Zambia marks strides in becoming a middle-income growth country by 2030. In a speech read on his behalf by Deputy Vice-Chancellor Michael Mulenga during the Bloomberg Media Initiative Africa Financial Journalism Training Program, Professor Mumba says, In a speech read on his behalf by Deputy Vice-Chancellor Michael Mlenga during the Bloomberg Media Initiative Africa Financial Journalism Training Program, Zambia Intake 2, which will run for 6 months, Professor Mumba says financial journalists are therefore critical in the information dissemination process, hence the need for them to be well informed and trained. Professor Mumba has noted the need for media to play an important role of ensuring that the public is well informed in areas of business, finance and economics. He says that the financial journalism training will therefore go a long way in equipping journalists with skills that will place them as key players in the economic space. And Bloomberg Media Initiative Africa Director Irana Stennett says that business journalism is a vital profession that can help in attracting investments, move markets and inform public policy for the development of any economy.
What does this mean for local and national media? It presents opportunity to invest, innovate, educate, disseminate, and elevate stories about Zambia and Southern Africa by Zambians worldwide with a click of a button. Where media houses were at the mercy of media companies were at the mercy of social media to distribute content on their platform with minimal compensation. With the rise of misinformation, stories written locally and nationally that are accurate, in-depth, and data-driven can now command highly competitive fees.
And in a speech read on his behalf by Director for Planning and Development, Succeed Mubanga, Higher Education Minister Brian Mushimba says the media training is timely as it will enhance specialization and help journalists inform the masses effectively, especially on issues of finance and data.
In the same breath, please allow me to congratulate the Bloomberg Media Initiative Director, Mrs. Irena Stennett, and her team for the great achievement that they've done from the first intake. This partnership is important for the country, and I'd like to encourage the Director to continue with this initiative. To the delegates, I can only say you are lucky to be part of this, to have this opportunity, and please make the best of it and apply yourselves in learning this through this program so that you can be able to contribute to financial journalism in the country. Distinguished guests, I'll be failing in my duties if I did not congratulate and thank Mr. Mike Bloomberg and the Bloomberg Philanthropies who are funding this program. This is truly a good partnership between Zambia and the Bloomberg community, and it is one that will help the country achieve its targets in the 7th National Development Plan and other plans that the country has set forth.
On that note, we end the news. For now, it's bye-bye and God bless.